We're going to talk about some draft targets for the Cleveland Browns on today's show. But if you are ready for the Browns to go out and draft 8 Pro Bowlers, as they have 8 picks in this upcoming draft, then like this video. Today's show is sponsored by RexMD, the #1 leader in men's telehealth. They've got deals with up to 90% off, which is just $2 per dosage. We'll tell you more about their great services later on, but visit them today at rexmd.com/chat. Now, let's talk draft rumors and targets. So I thought for today's show, what we could do was just bring in all of the pre-draft visit and the combine meetings, kind of condense it for everyone, round it all up, and then look at see who could the Browns seriously be looking at drafting here. Now, we are filming this during our live show Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern. So if the Browns bring in someone for a visit afterwards, well, obviously, we won't have it on today's show. But first things first, let's run through their combine meetings. Now, it's a good reminder that teams meet with a lot of guys every single year, and they do not draft nearly all those guys or even a high percentage of them. So they did meet with some wide receivers when they were at the combine. Tyler Scott, Parker Washington, cornerback Julius Brents from K-State, and then safety Jammie Robinson out of Florida State. Now, as for official pre-draft visits, which they only get 30 of, so guys they clearly have some sort of crush on, let's go in order from offense down to defense, starting with the quarterback. So, first one up, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Clayton Tune from Houston, and then Jake Haener out of Fresno State. Of those 3 guys, one really catches my eye, and it's probably the one you're thinking of too. The UCLA Bruins quarterback, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. 5-year starter over in LA, 3,100 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. He showed a lot of greatness and flashes and potential. The only issue is that he was the starter for 5 years, and the things he had to work on in year 2 were still the things he had to work on in year 5. And that is reading all 11 players on defense and recognizing blitz packages and whatnot. So from that level of the game, he still needs to get better at. And if you're an NFL GM, you would hope that over 5 years, the collegiate level as a starter, you would figure some of those things out by the time you got to your last season. Now, I'm a big believer in always drafting a quarterback. I mean, the Brock Purdy example last year just goes to show it is worth a flyer in the 6th or 7th round on a QB, whereas the guy you draft from the defensive lineman or a safety in round 7, let's be honest, how often do those guys even make a play in the preseason? So for that reason, I'm always a big believer in draft a QB, even if you don't need a quarterback. You'll never know when you need a quarterback. Talk to the 49ers about that. And you'd rather have one than not need one than need one and not have one if, unfortunately, a bunch of injuries start to occur. Now, some other pre-draft visits that were reported. Nathaniel Dell, Tank Dell, and Jalin Hyatt, 2 wide receivers. If we want to compare these 2 players, the Biletnikoff winner from Tennessee, my alma mater, Jalin Hyatt, 1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns last year. And then Tank Dell, who bounced around a little bit early in his collegiate career, but with the Houston Cougars the last 2 years, extremely productive. And the guy was just a big play machine time after time. Now, why are the Browns visiting with Jalin Hyatt, who more than likely will not be there in round number 3? The only Brian Windhorst theory I have is the Browns might be looking to trade up because they think, well, we got 8 draft picks. Do we have 8 roster spots? If the answer is no, because they've done a lot in free agency, well, then maybe you condense those 8 picks into 6 better picks, right? Or maybe you take some of those 8 picks and trade back and get more picks for 2024, which I know isn't really fun right now, but I think we'll all appreciate more picks in 2024. So maybe Cleveland is looking to move up, or maybe Jimmy Haslam just told Andrew Berry, bring my guy from Knoxville up to Cleveland and fall in love with him like I did, and you'll want to trade up and get him. We'll wait and see what happens, but it is a little fishy meeting with a guy like Jalin Hyatt, who you know will not be there when you're on the clock in round number 3. So does that signal a potential trade up? Maybe, maybe not. But be the GM for me. Would you trade back into round 2? Type T for trade or type P for pass. Let me know what you're thinking down below. And while you're getting your comments in, let me tell you about today's sponsor in more detail, RexMD. Fellas, do you sometimes lack confidence in the bedroom? We've all had those nights where we get too nervous or maybe had too much to drink, and there's nothing worse than not being able to put the stick shift in drive when you need it most. But have no fear, RexMD is here, spreading cheer even when you have too many beers. RexMD is FDA approved and the most trusted leader in men's telehealth. They have sponsored today's Browns Report to help you always be prepared. RexMD has made it simple, easy, and cost-effective to help all men out there last longer and feel more confident in the bedroom. RexMD makes getting generic and branded Viagra or Cialis easy. Everything is online, even the prescription, and they deliver it discreetly to your door. So no waiting rooms, no embarrassing trips to the doctor, no insurance, and no copays. Take advantage of their best deal they've ever offered and save up to 90% off and only pay $2 per dosage with our exclusive link. Go to rexmd.com/chat and use that link for this deal. It will not last forever. Starter packs of generic Viagra or Cialis are now available to our listeners to get started. That is rexmd.com/chat. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. Some other reported pre-draft visits for Cleveland. We got some offensive linemen to look at now. Jones from Ohio State, Tyler Steen out of Bama, Juice Scruggs, what an all-time name, out of Penn State. So why are they looking at offensive linemen? Well, it is a good reminder of they have 30 pre-draft visits. Teams don't have 30 positions of need. So they are going to do their homework and see for the future. And one spot for the future is, are you sold on Jedrick Wills? And I think I'm going to get a lot of no's. So are the Browns maybe doing their homework and thinking, okay, is there a best player available that might not be in need right now, but we think he is simply too good to pass up on? And that could be the Ohio State lineman, Jones. Now, I could see him potentially being this year's Martin Emerson type of pick where we all go, wait a minute, why did the Browns just draft a tackle? They've got 2 tackles. Just like last year when they drafted a corner and we're like, we've got Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome. What are they doing? Well, worked out pretty well because Martin Emerson was awesome last season. So could Dawand Jones be the same for Cleveland this year? He is a mountain of a human being. 6'8", 374 pounds. He's mocked to go between rounds 2 and 3, so right where the Browns are. A 2-year starter at right tackle who excels at run blocking. I don't know if they would think maybe they could kick him to left tackle if they don't see a future with Jed Wills, or they want to groom him to take over from Jack Conklin, who might be gone after 2024. Now, we're going to look at more pre-draft visits in just a brief moment, but I've got a bit of a bizarre, usual cliche YouTube sub pitch and read here. Can we get exactly 17 new subscribers? Not 16, not even 18, but 17. I don't know why I picked that number, but I thought it could be a fun experiment to see if we can get 17 on the dot. So don't everyone go rushing at once to subscribe, but definitely don't rely on other people to do the heavy lifting for you. Let's see if we can get exactly 17. This could be a fun experiment. Some other pre-draft visits the Browns have had so far. Some defensive linemen now. Gervon Dexter, from Florida. DJ Johnson out of Oregon. Karl Brooks from Bowling Green. Siaki Ika from Baylor. And then linebacker Trent Simpson from Clemson. Now, if we're going to look at just the defensive linemen for a moment, how about that Karl Brooks guy? 18 tackles for loss, 10 sacks. He was a 5-year player for Bowling Green. He led the team in sacks every single season. That is a very rare thing to find. Now, Ika had a pre-draft visit with the Browns very recently, and I understand that he fits the mold of big nose tackle who's going to be tough to run against, like a Vita Vea. I got a little bit of concerns with him just because he somewhat regressed from 2021 to 2022, and I'm a little concerned as to why he did. Dexter and Johnson. Dexter's another defensive tackle, a run-stopping player. Johnson would be an edge rusher who could go in rounds 4 through 5. Now, as for linebacker Trent Simpson, last season for Clemson, 73 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. And the Browns have quietly a very big need at linebacker because at the surface level, they've got 3 starters. So what do they need a linebacker for? But if we're thinking ahead here, who's on this team in 2024? JOK and Tony Fields. That's it. So they hopefully will plan for the future and not push off this issue that will be their next offseason and not draft anyone to replace Anthony Walker or Taki, as they are both on 1-year contracts. If I had to pick someone between those 5 guys we just looked at, I'm going to go with Trent Simpson. Now, the Winfrey situation, which potentially by the time you're watching this, will have dramatically altered our train of thought on this. But for now, at least while I'm filming this during our live show on Thursday, he's on this team, and they don't have a glaring need at defensive tackle. Whereas for linebacker, they're good until one injury happens, and then it's a problem. Or better yet, until Walker or Taki are ready to play. And can anyone say for sure they will start week 1? I can't. So for that reason, I like the idea of Simpson. He's the best player on the board for Cleveland in this case. Now, what say you? Should the Browns draft for need or best player available? Last year, they went best player available, Martin Emerson. And there was some frustration, for myself included, because it was like, what are you doing? Cornerback was probably the one spot you didn't need a player. You've already got 3 starters, Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and Troy Hill. Ended out working pretty well for them, but let me know what you think down below. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, by the way, at Matthew Petey. I'm always talking Brownies over there. So hit me up and give me your hottest takes on my Twitter, at Matthew Petey.